Am I in the wrong for ghosting my cheating fiance? So, for some context, I, 27 female, dated my ex-fiance Jonathan, 29 male, for 4 years, and we had been engaged for a couple months. It was a good relationship, and I truly thought that I would spend the rest of my life with him, but I guess I was just too naive to see the truth. To keep it short, I found out that he'd been cheating on me with a mutual friend for a couple months, and that group of friends in particular was covering up his affair. They were all acting strange, so I went through his phone and I found out that they had a separate group where they even made fun of me for not realizing. I was furious, and my first impulse was to berate all of them. However, I ended up deciding to just disappear from their lives. Any confrontation was clearly a waste of time with these people. When he went to work the next day, I packed everything I owned, took all the money that I put in our joint account, which was a lot since we were paying for our wedding, we were planning for a good honeymoon, and wanted to buy a house. I blocked them from everywhere, put my accounts on private, changed my number, and I went back to my hometown and stayed with my mom and stepdad. I was so mad that I even left my job right away. I told my friends and family what had happened, and then I decided to go on a big trip with some of the money that I had put in our joint account. I left for 3 months. I had the time of my life and came back home like 2 months ago. I was able to get a job here and I decided to start dating again. It's nothing serious, but I have been seeing this nice guy for about a month. I'm just trying to put my life back on track. Anyway, recently my family and friends are telling me that my ex and our ex mutual friends are bombarding them with texts on social media. They apparently want to know where I am and are asking how I'm doing, and they're saying what I did was childish and I should just talk to them at least. I have no intention of this. For me, it's a closed phase of my life and I literally did nothing at all. I just left. They will never see my face again or hear from me, and I told my close circle to just ignore or block them. But am I in the wrong?
Am I wrong for divorcing my wife because she couldn't handle me crying in front of her? I, 28 male, and my wife, 29 female, were recently visiting Cambodia. I booked a trip for our 4th wedding anniversary. On our last day there, we decided to visit a genocide prison called S21. We were warned by our tour guide that the place wasn't for the faint of heart. The prison was used to massacre thousands of innocent civilians who were deemed too smart or intellectual during the rule of Pol Pot. I remember seeing torture chambers where they would beat people to death with chains. They didn't hide away any of the brutality. The pictures on the walls literally looked like something straight out of Live Leak. In one of the prison cells there was literally dried up blood on the floor from presumably the captive held there all those years ago. I remember walking past a tree dubbed the killing tree. They took kids as young as 3 years old and would bash their heads into it until they died. Upon reading that, I literally just started sobbing. I was visualizing everything in my head and I just felt for the kids who had to watch their siblings and friends get massacred in front of them. My wife saw me crying and instead of comforting me, just gave me this weird look. After a while, she did come hug me and ask me if something was wrong. I just pointed to the exit and we left after that. I just couldn't take it anymore. While in our taxi, she asked me if I was seriously crying. I just nodded and kept quiet. I was still pretty shaken up by the things I just read and saw. That was last week, and there has been this weird tension between us ever since. She tries to pick fights with me and just seems dismissive and disrespectful for no reason. A few days ago, I came home exhausted from work, and she asked me if I could do the laundry that day. I told her I'd do it tomorrow and just wanted to relax for a bit. She then got mad and told me that she didn't know she was marrying a woman and then stormed off. She has never acted like this before our trip. I lost it yesterday night after she tried to pick another fight with me and confronted her about her behavior over the past week. I asked her if all of this had to do with me crying. She tried denying it at first, but after a while, she just went silent for a few moments and then started nodding while keeping her head down. I asked why, and she just claimed that humanity has done worse in the past, and she just feels weird about me crying over kids who have nothing to do with me. She also told me that she isn't a therapist and she felt uncomfortable and was disappointed in me for shedding tears over something that happens all the time. Saw me getting mad at her comments and tried backpedaling and apologizing, but I just couldn't take it anymore and just went to bed in our guest room. This was literally the second time she has ever seen me cry. First was when my best friend lost his life to a drunk driver. To all the men out there, have you experienced anything similar with your significant other? I'm just sort of lost for words. I can't make sense of anything right now. I don't know who I can confide in with this, so that's why I'm posting here. I just need a place to vent.
Am I in the wrong for promising my son something that I have to break? So my son isn't like the typical boy. Well, he plays football, is athletic, flirts with girls, goes to parties, etc. But he's always been someone that really likes to take care of other people. It started when he was a child. We brought his sister home and he would sleep in her crib with her and take care of her as you would a parent. He wanted to be the one to feed her, play with her, put her to sleep. It was really adorable, but we put a stop to it because it got to the point where she only wanted to be around her brother and didn't care about her parents. She still prefers him, which is embarrassing, but at least she's not calling him dad anymore. He also always is saving animals and bringing them home. We're not big pet people, so we've never had pets before, but he has snuck a kitten in and nursed her in his room before we found out. His best friend has sort of a bad home situation, so he often does his homework for him, even though we tell him not to, and he brings him food that he cooks himself. It does stress me out that he seems to want to mother someone so bad. He always talks about how much he'd love a dog and how he's missing out on important childhood memories by not having one. He's begged us for a dog, but we've said no. While he says he'll care for it completely, we know that's not feasible because he's in school for 9 hours a day, and then he also has sports and extracurriculars. He also has friends that he hangs around, so we hardly see him. Having a dog is a big no. We explained this to him, but he's not happy about it. There's a giant lab that is a stray where we live, and a lot of our neighbors have been feeding and taking care of it. Yesterday, I came home and my son brought it inside, giving it a bath, and is training it with treats. I said no dogs inside, play with them outside, and kick both of them out. Later, my son came in to eat food. The lab was sitting right at the door, waiting for him to come back outside. His sister and him begged me to let them keep the lab, but I said absolutely not. Labs make a lot of mess, and that one has a lot of energy. When my son goes to sleep, he's sad because the lab is still waiting at the door. He says the dog shouldn't be kept outside his whole life. He asks me if the lab is out there by the morning. If he waits outside all night, can I keep it? I decide sure. All night, him and his sister kept checking the door to see if the lab was still there, and it was. But I wasn't worried because I thought that for sure it would be gone by the morning. But it wasn't. He woke up in the morning and opened the door, and the lab was still there. Of course, they were celebrating keeping their lab, but I had to tell him absolutely not. I only said that because I thought that he wouldn't be outside in the morning. My son said I'm breaking my promise and is upset at me. My daughter has been crying. So, am I in the wrong? Am I in the wrong for telling my family if they're going to have a 15-minute prayer before my son's birthday party dinner and lecture everyone about God to just not show up? I'm a single father of 3. My family, mother, sisters, and grandparents became extremely involved with the Christian church over 2 years ago. So much so that it's become a chore just to visit any of them since all they want to talk about is their religion. When we get together, it's never, how have you been? How's work? How are you? It's always, when are you going to join us at church? The Holy Spirit really helped me this week. Have you read the Bible I gave you? I try to now distance myself from them as much as I can and just spend time with my kids. Last year, my mother asked if she could take my kids to get ice cream and go to the park. Little did I know it was a church-related event, and my daughter quickly called me to pick them up because a man was speaking into a microphone and people were fainting all around them and crying to God. That was the last time I let them go with my family alone. My birthday was in April and I had friends, family, and coworkers over just to relax and take time off, swim a little, and play some backyard games. When it came time to eat, my mother took it upon herself to make a huge speech about how it was and is difficult raising a son that does not believe in religion and her testimony that God is the way. I felt the ambience change and everyone get uncomfortable. After that, I tried to blow it off and continued to entertain people that were there. That's when my family brought out their pamphlets and began going to everyone and preaching to them, talking to them for 10 minutes at a time. I pulled my mom to the side and told her this is not the place nor the time for all of that. She apologized and they left soon after. My son's birthday is coming up. I was at my mom's for Memorial Day and she quickly asked me if it was okay to speak to some people about the Lord. I took it upon myself to inform everyone if they're going to act like a congregation to a child's birthday party to just not show up, period. Now I have them calling and texting me saying I should be ashamed of myself for denying the Lord to people. I honestly just want to cut them all off because these past couple of years have been insufferable. So, am I in the wrong?
My 23 female, boyfriend 24 male, didn't want to pay $200 to save my life. I was at a bar with my boyfriend and his friends a while ago. We all had a great time dancing on tables, singing and drinking. I remember feeling totally fine one second, and the next I got very unsteady and I lost connection with my body. I got confused and scared, but then just so calm. This is seconds here and there I remember. Most things that happened don't exist in my memory. I became unconscious, and according to my boyfriend, the few times I opened my eyes, they looked very scared. He was told to get a taxi and get me to the emergency room fast. He managed to get me into the taxi and started to drive. My boyfriend told me that during the drive, the driver told him that he would have to pay $200 extra if I threw up. Then my boyfriend said, no, stopped the driver and wanted to walk to the emergency room. I was still unconscious and he didn't know why or if my life was at risk. Luckily for him, the police was driving around and saw me laying on the ground. They asked him what's up and drove us to the emergency room with blue lights on and fast. They took it very seriously, and without them, my boyfriend would have been lucky to even get me to the emergency room. Turns out I got drugged that night. It got worse, as he forced me to walk with shaky legs from the emergency room the day after. A walk that should have been 20 minutes took me 2 hours. He even started talking about the fact that he could have been drugged too, and that maybe he even got a little drugged, even though he didn't feel weird at all that night. Then he started to talk about him paying the $40 taxi for the little drive and how much that was. Like he wanted me to pay him back or something. He constantly stated that it was $40 and how sick that was. I looked up symptoms related to being drugged and found that long-term symptoms would mostly be trauma. The next weekend, I had to be with his friends again and some people I didn't know. They talked about that night and even made jokes a little around me being drugged. Not a lot, but I felt awful. He also ignored me once when I said someone was following me. He was never scared of letting me walk around in town that night, but if a female friend did it, then he would have had to follow her. He argues when I'm scared instead of making me feel better or protecting me. Other than that, he's a kind man that doesn't want to hurt people, but this cannot be normal. Is this a relationship worth it? I'm scared I'm overreacting, but keep in mind that most of this is told from his perspective as I don't remember that night. I forgot to say that I asked him what he would have done differently if this happened today, and paying the taxi was not on the list.
Am I in the wrong for body shaming my girlfriend's friend who won't shut up about how she doesn't like white guys? I, 22 male, have a girlfriend, 20 female, and she has this friend, 21 female, who is completely unbearable. Her entire personality is about how she doesn't fuck white guys and constantly goes on rants about how white guys are bad at sex or how they can't handle her, blah, 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 blah. I get that people have preferences, but she always finds a way to integrate into any conversation her sexual preferences. It's like we could be talking about what we had for breakfast and she would be like, oh, you had a Pop-Tart? I once gave this black guy a Pop-Tart after he was done fucking me. I never would have given a white guy a Pop-Tart because he wouldn't have fucked me good enough to deserve it. That's what I mean when I say it's her whole personality. The incident happened when she told my girlfriend in front of me that she needs to experience a black D once in her life. My girlfriend has never banged a black dude, and she looked at me, smiled, and faked a laugh like, oh, just kidding. My response is where I might have been an a-hole. This friend is a bigger girl, probably like size 18 to 20 in pants. I said, I speak for the white guys when I say we will gladly give white girls your size to the black guys. You may not want to fuck us, but we don't want to fuck you either. Black guys tend to like big girls. She shut up real quick. But after the hangout, my girlfriend said that I need to apologize to her because her friend speaks that way out of insecurity. She knows that she's bigger than the rest of the group, and she says these things to cope. I said I was fine, albeit annoyed, but fine until she insinuated that my girlfriend should cheat on me. I'm refusing to apologize until she apologizes for that. So, am I in the wrong? Am I in the wrong for humiliating my daughter, for making her tell her relatives that she isn't graduating and paying me back for all the rental stuff? My daughter was supposed to graduate college this semester. We've been talking about her graduation party for basically 7 months. What she wanted to do and who to invite. We have already sent out the invites and multiple relatives have booked flights to come. The issue is my daughter isn't graduating. She lied to everyone for at least 4 months. She failed the class that she needed to graduate last semester and didn't inform anyone. She told us this yesterday. The party is in about a month. Everything has been paid for already. So I informed her that she needs to call all of her relatives and explain the situation. If they can't get a refund for their flights, I expect her to offer to pay them back. I also informed her that she needs to pay back the rental price since I can't get a refund for some stuff. This resulted in a huge argument and she's calling me a jerk for humiliating her. I explained that this is her fault and if she informed us months ago, this wouldn't be happening. My husband thinks that I'm being a bit harsh but is sticking with me. She knew she failed the class by break the first week of December. She had all December, January, February, and this March to inform us and didn't. She continues to plan with us for the graduation party and never informed us that she wasn't graduating. It was a core class offered once a year. She'll need to take it in the fall. She knew she wasn't graduating. The school isn't letting her walk. She'll have to walk at the December one. Multiple people are asking what I would have done if she informed me. I would have moved the party and helped her figure out how to make the best out of the extra semester. Probably would have looked into if she could add a quick minor, but can't do that now since most of the summer classes have been filled. So, am I in the wrong?